My name is Cade Courtley, and this is Can You Survive This Podcast? The show is designed to teach you techniques that will increase your chances of survival if you happen to find yourself or your family in any life-threatening disaster scenario imaginable. Each episode will put you smack in the middle of a new disaster scenario as I challenge my guests to see if they have what it takes to get out alive. Knowledge is power, people. Can you survive this podcast? My fellow survivors, if you can hear the sound of my voice, that means you're still alive, and it is my continued mission to keep it that way. Welcome to another episode of Can You Survive This Podcast? I'm your host, Cade Courtley, and our next guest, amazing guest, a 7-time world champion, American-Canadian professional wrestler, a musician, a podcaster, a best-selling author, an actor, an entrepreneur, and he's currently signed to both All Elite Wrestling, AEW, and New Japan Pro Wrestling, NJPW. You may know him as the Lion Tamer, the Ayotolla of Rock and Rolla. Folks, please welcome Chris Jericho. Chris, welcome to the show, buddy.
Hey, man, I'm excited. I get a lot of press requests and stuff, and some of them I can do, some of them I can't do. But this one stood out right away because it sounds like something very fun. And the fact you're going to try and kill me, figuratively, I hope, unless you have some sort of crazy darts that go through the computer, which you survival guys might have that too. So I'm holding on for dear life, and I'm excited to be here.
Well, it's great to have you. We're definitely we're gonna take you for a ride and see if you end up on the other side of this. And so, for anybody who's not familiar with hypothetical survival world, I'm going to drop Chris Jericho right into the middle of a life-threatening situation, a hypothetical situation. And just like Choose Your Own Adventure, he's going to have 10 events. And in each of those events, he can choose A or B. You choose the right, you get 10 points. You choose the wrong one, minus 10 points. So Chris Jericho, if you're ready, here is your hypothetical survival world scenario. Okay, so you live in Florida. You've been there for a little while, I imagine, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this one has been customized for you, and I think you're going to do pretty well. All right, so you are at your home, and you're enjoying just some time down with your family, and you've been listening to the news, and they've been talking about a storm that's brewing off the coast. You're like, all right, seen it done there. No big deal. Well, this storm's getting bigger and bigger, and it is heading right in your direction. And the National Hurricane Center has just announced that in the past several hours, it has become a Cat 4 hurricane, and they are advising everybody to evacuate. Any questions about your scenario so far? Number one, have you been through a hurricane?
Yeah, a few times.
A few times. All right, so you get to put this to work. What you might have learned from the last one. All right, Chris Jericho, your first decision. You can stay put after hearing the National Hurricane Center evacuation announcement, or are you going to head and you're going to get up and get out?
Well, we've had pretty much an exact scenario of that where we had to debate that. And the problem why we didn't leave and evacuate was a few reasons. One was where you're going to go, because all of the hotels were booked all the way up to like Valdosta, which is 6 hours from here. And even they were supposed to get hit with the hurricane. But the biggest problem is we have 5 dogs, 3 cats, 4 fish tanks, and a partridge in a pear tree sort of thing. So we decided to stay put and stay at home. And that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm staying home.
Okay. Compelling argument. And I understand because you're a guy that lived through this. But for the folks out there that we're trying to give them the best advice, given a situation where they haven't lived through this, if the Hurricane Center is saying, folks, Cat 4, bug out, we're going to recommend following the advice.
Gotcha. Well, don't listen to me.
No. Well, this is a unique situation because you're like, been there, done that. So let's just say you decide, hey, all right, we're going to bug out because Cat 4 is no joke. So here, you actually only have a couple of minutes for whatever reason to get out. What are you going to get for supplies? clothes and blankets, or food and water?
I'm going to go with, sounds like a trick question. You survivalists are getting me. I mean, my initial reaction would be food and water, but I think it'd be easier to find food on the road. But since you just went that, I'm going to say food and water.
I think that's excellent. Here's a couple of reasons why. In a survival situation, I always recommend the thing that can kill you first is the thing that you need to address first. And especially dealing with tidal, all the flooding that you're going to be dealing with, there's going to be a lot of water that is not going to be safe to drink. So if you have your own supply of water, especially, and some food, especially because you have some kids with you, that's going to be a good way to go. All right, so that's a +10. So you're back at 0 here. You are in the vehicle. No, that's all right. This is good. You're in the vehicle. Hurricane was heading straight towards you from the east. Are you going to drive north or are you going to drive west?
I'm going to say you're going to drive west.
Exactly. Reason being, you are going to try and get as much distance and time away from the path of that hurricane as possible. So you're heading in the opposite direction. But you're probably going to realize this is what happens next. You're in a vehicle during a massive storm like this and you hit gridlock traffic. That's one of the reasons, folks, why they say leave earlier than later. That's why the folks at the Hurricane Center are like, get out now, get out ahead of it. You're in gridlock traffic. Everything is stopped. Are you going to get out of the vehicle and start running? Or there's an option, you're going to head off-road. You see a muddy field off to the right. Get out and run or go off-roading.
In the car?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say off. I'd say you're probably best off staying in your car, so off-roading, but you're going to tell me I'm going to get stuck in the mud. Or no,
well. You're good at this, brother. No, absolutely stay in your vehicle. If you see an option that can get you more distance, take that option. Getting out and running right now, not a good plan.
Stay in the vehicle, I would say for sure.
Stay in the vehicle for now. Uh-oh. You got stuck in the mud and you have 2 flat tires. Hey, folks, I swear to God, we didn't send him this before the show. All right, so here's another decision. Vehicle is out of commission. You going to get out, leave the vehicle, or are you going to stay in the vehicle at this point? You got a vehicle that is stuck in the mud. Hint, don't forget about flooding issues.
Right, yeah. I guess, you can't just stay put. You'd have to try and get out and move.
You absolutely have to. It is not the best scenario to be in, but it's the best given those 2 decisions. Time to get out, time to move, all right? But folks, remember, the majority of deaths from a hurricane, they're caused by drowning. So you got to keep this in mind if you're getting out and where you're going to move. So speaking of where you're going to move, you see a ditch off to the right that can provide you some cover, or to the left about 300 feet away, you see a brick structure. Are you going to head to the right to that ditch, or are you going to try and make your way to a brick structure?
I'm going to try and make my way to the brick structure.
Absolutely. And again, we already touched on it, folks, about the majority of deaths come from drowning in a hurricane. Last thing you want to do is be in a place where water runs. So you are +40. You definitely bounce back from that opening question. Stay ahead of it. All right. So yes, you're heading to this, you're heading to a hardened structure. And what do? Do you run right for it? Now, granted, again, 50, 75 mile per hour winds, stuff's flying everywhere. You going to run at top speed to try and get there as quick as possible, or are you going to low crawl and try and get there from cover to cover to cover, taking little bounds?
I would guess that low crawl is the best way to go.
And low crawl is the best way to go in this situation. Folks, when you have debris flying around at 100 miles per hour, it can saw you in half. People have been decapitated. I mean, something like a 2x4 is going to feel like a cannon going through you. So a low cross section, stay as low as possible, and again, try and go. It's the same when we're in a firefight. You're not just going to cover a bunch of ground. You're going to go from cover to cover to cover to slowly get your way there. And again, staying as low as possible. +50. All right, buddy. Here we go. In the process of getting to the structure, your wife is injured. She's got a bad cut. Are you going to stop and try and address the injury, or are you going to press on and try and get to that structure? Address the injury in place or try and get to that structure?
Wow. Just trying to think, if you were in the field in a war, would you have to address the injury, at least assess what it is?
Oh, you're right on the right track. Go with your instinct on that.
If it's not too serious, then you go to the break. If it's really serious, you got to stop it, stop the bleeding.
Yep. So let's just say, given the two choices, treat the wound right there, treat the wound, or continue on to the structure, if you have those two simple choices.
I'd say treat it.
Okay, and you are totally on the right track when you're talking about, if you're in a firefight and you're getting shot at, your priority is to try and secure the area, or you're going to get more people that are going to get injured. So in the military, we call it, you get hit and the boys are taking care of business. You do self-aid, you do what you can to yourself, and then somebody else will come and get you, but they have to address that threat, and that threat is people shooting you. So unlike a firefight, you're out there, all this debris is flying, try and get the hell out of that firefight, or in this case, this hurricane, and get to that structure.
Gotcha.
That's all right.
Good tip to know. Good tip to know.
Yes. Again, and we talked about it before. What's the thing that's going to kill you first? Is it going to be flying debris or my arm bleeding? Well, it's going to be this damn flying debris. So let's address that first. All right, moving on. You've made it to the structure. All right, you're treating your wife's wound. She's doing okay. She's stable. Are you, in this home, the structure you got to, going to head to the basement? Or are you going to try and find an interior room without windows?
Well, you said that the majority of people die from drowning.
Yes.
So I'll stay out of the basement and look for the interior without windows.
I couldn't have said it better myself. That's exactly it. Water.
Now, had I not done this show, I would have said go to the basement. But
and for a tornado, that would be great. But when we're dealing with the issue with flooding and water flows downward, folks, try and find an interior room, a bathroom or something like that without windows. Because it's on the inside, you're going to have even more protection from the walls around you, and the no window thing is kind of huge. So back up to plus 50. One more for you, Chris Jericho. You ready?
Yes.
All of a sudden, things get really quiet. Okay, storm's over. You going to head outside and check out what's going on? Or are you going to try and fortify that place you're in, realizing this was a hurricane?
Yeah, I think it probably, maybe if it gets that quiet, it's probably the eye of the storm passing over, so let's fortify.
Absolutely, it's the eye. Folks, do not be fooled by the fact that this thing has gone by. An eye of a hurricane can be 20 to 40 miles in diameter. But you know what's coming in about 2 to 3 to 5 to 10 minutes? The other side, or the backside, the eye wall, that's coming, and oftentimes that is even more harsh than the initial leading edge of the hurricane. So that's a plus 60. That's very admirable. That's awesome, man. You survived. Survival world. Did you? Oh, you did great, man. Hey, we do something in this called After Action Report. It's just sort of like, did you learn anything from this other than stay away from brothers who are okay with their sisters hooking up with you in Mexico?
Please stay away from that. Yeah, if there's any hot chicks that want to go to a party with their brother in Mexico, don't do it. But I learned some stuff about, hurricanes are a real thing here. So I learned a couple little tips there. Thank you.
Chris Jericho, I can't thank you enough for being part of our show, taking the time to do this. Again, I'm going to be watching what you're doing because I'm trying to stay in your footsteps. But everything you do, man, it's awesome. You're just out there to entertain folks. And that's a pretty damn noble cause, especially nowadays. We need more of that. So thank you. Thank you very much, man. I really appreciate it, brother.
Hey, man, my pleasure. Thank you. This was really, really cool. I'm glad we did this. It was fun.
Again, thank you so much, Chris Jericho. It's an honor to have you on, buddy. Thanks. Hey, thanks for watching, folks. If you enjoyed the show, go ahead and smash that like button, and don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell. Any questions or suggestions for future episodes, leave it in the comments so you can be a survivor, not a statistic. And if you want more from this guest, including an amazing interview, you can find us on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast platform. Can You Survive This Podcast is a Cavalry audio production. recorded live from the bunker in Denver, Colorado. Hosted by me, Cade Courtley. Produced by Brandon Morgan and Cade Courtley. Associate producer is Jeff Apple. Executive produced by Keegan Rosenberger and Dana Brunetti. When the public health crisis known as COVID-19 hit our nation back in March, the Gary Sinise Foundation mobilized quickly to launch the Emergency COVID-19 Combat Service. This national campaign supports medical professionals, first responders, service members, veterans, and all of those who so courageously stand on the front lines of this global pandemic. Whether they are providing critical PPE to first responders, care packages to our military service members, or meals to medical professionals and hospitals, this campaign is an extension of the Gary Sinise Foundation's mission to honor those who so bravely protect our nation. Support our heroes today at GarySiniseFoundation.org.